Hi, hello! As I promised in my last video, I'm going to give this poor neglected Polly Pocket Compact a severe makeover. So let's have a closer look at it. The logo has lost its golden color, so it is just the raw plastic you see there, and it must have been gone for a long time because it got the same level of sun damage as nearly the whole compact has. What else? The tiny plastic bulge to close the compact has been broken apart and there are cracks all over the lid. Now let's have a look inside. The sun damage continues at the inside. Nearly everything is discolored or faded. And there's dirt everywhere. Through the dirt, I can't even recognize the original motif of the sticker. I don't know what kind of dirt it is. It looks like soil or maybe rust. It might also have been moist at some time because the sticker at the bottom looks wavy and it looks very faded. The tiny little door that was the entrance to this little cafe has been broken off as well. Now to the upper part. It looks much better, I think. There is way less dirt everywhere and you can even recognize what it is shown on the stickers in the back. Although they are wavy as well. There, I have found a tiny spot of the original color. Do you see this tiny bright pink dot at the joint there? This was the original color of the whole compact and not this dark red tone it has now. Okay, I think I have a lot to do now. Let's begin. The first thing I really wanted to do was to get all the dirt and filth off of the compact. So I threw it into a bucket of warm water with some hand soap and just let it soak there for a whole day until I started to scrub it with a dishwashing cloth. I was aware that the stickers wouldn't stand the water and soap treatment at all, so I just scrubbed them off as good as possible. They were color faded and wavy anyways, so don't be too sad that they had to go. As soon as I had removed the dirt from the large areas with the dishwashing cloth, I used a toothbrush to get in all the corners and the smaller areas. I could also get the stickers out with it. Now I wash off the soap under running water and put it on some kitchen towels to let everything dry. Even with washing and brushing, there were several dirty spots left and I didn't get the stickers completely off. So I cleaned these areas with the disinfectant wipe and a wooden skewer. Yeah, that took me a while, but once I was finished, it looked like this. The next thing I wanted to tackle was the broken plastic nib in the front. For that, the plan is that I'm going to make a mold out of silicone to replace the missing part with resin. I don't own the exact compact in a good condition for making the mold, but a similar one. It has the exact shape and just a different color, so this will be okay, I think. To create the mold, I am using a 2-component silicone mass. I take 2 tiny balls that are the same size from each pot and knead everything into a larger ball. And with this done, I just smoosh that thing as tight as possible on there and let it harden for at least 20 minutes. After that, it is hardened and can be easily removed without leaving any residue behind. There you can see again that there is no damage to the compact happening and that inside the mold there are weather cracks, no bumps. At first I wanted to try to use UV resin to recreate the missing nib. I have never used this before, so this was my first try. As you can see, the lid was closed by some plastic, so I thought maybe you're supposed to just poke through it. Let's try it with a metal paper clip. It didn't do anything. So I tried it from the inside. Yeah, no, didn't do anything either. Next attempt. This time I used a very pointy and, most important, very sturdy sewing needle. Didn't work. Next attempt. Let's try a box cutter. that was kind of dangerous. So please do not try this as well. But even with this, I couldn't get through. I started to begin to think, well, maybe, just maybe, this nozzle is not supposed to be opened. But instead of being sane and intelligent and letting it be as it is, I thought, nah, that can't be. This stupid plastic thingy will not defeat me.
Mein Gott. Oh, es geht. Yay. Da muss ich nur zu helfen wissen. Aber jetzt steckt es fest. Oh nein!
Yeah, I have to admit it, that was not the most intelligent thing I have ever done. Now I have a hole in my cupboard. Well, nothing a sticker can't solve, but the needle is now completely stuck. So I thought I have to hammer it all the way through now. But it got stuck at the thick end. In the end, I could hammer it through backwards. Finally, I have defeated the lid. And surprisingly, without hurting myself. Now that there is an application hole, I finally could try the resin. Okay, let's make it short. The UV resin didn't work. The light can't get through the opaque mold, so it wouldn't harden. Even though I have held the light from above, it wouldn't get all the way down to the bottom. The plan was to have a piece of hardened resin and then to apply it to the broken part of the compact with some more resin as glue. But yeah, I tried it a second time with a thinner mold that I have made off camera to get sure that I really got into it with the light, but it wouldn't harden either. It might also be because the UV lamp was not strong enough, because the resin wouldn't really harden even outside the mold. So I changed plans and chose the 2-component resin. At first I put the pure resin inside a measuring cup. I tried to get as near to 50 grams as the scale was able to show. As you can see, the scale jumps between 48 and 50 as much as it wants. Then I'm trying to put half the amount of the hardener inside the cup. But some of it got spilled everywhere and it was a bit too little of the liquid. But I continued anyways. That's why you really should wear gloves doing this, and I really should have used a pipette or a funnel to avoid the spillage. But I continued anyways. I needed to stir the mixture for 5 minutes. Once I have finished that, I could fill it inside the mold and put everything on the defect compact. I waited a whole week before I wanted to remove it. This time I wanted to be very sure that the resin would have hardened completely. And luckily it did. There were plenty uneven spots everywhere. So I sanded everything down until it was as smooth as possible and wiped all the dust off with a disposable cloth that had to go into the trash afterwards. I wanted to be sure to get no plastic into the sink at all because it can be very harmful to the environment. I just got some water over the compact again to get off the residues of the cloth, and now it looks like this. Due to the sanding, you can even see the original color again of the compact before it got sun damaged. The new resin piece got so stable that I was even able to close the compact again. So, and the compact is now ready for painting. I wanted to create an acrylic pour effect. This was the first time I ever tried this as well. So there were mistakes made even here. I prepared the surface with the plastic tray and several kitchen towels. I also taped some plastic cups inside the compact to lift it up and to be able to place some tiny canvases underneath. so the overflowing paint wouldn't go to waste that much. As the next step, I wanted to fill different colors inside these tiny silicone cups. I used the wrong mixing ratio with the paint and the acrylic medium, so it turned out like pudding and not like a smooth fluid. So I filled up a new cup with water and put some of the forbidden lavender pudding inside and stirred it until it got the right consistency. Then I mixed all the colors I wanted to use, and I also tried them on the little canvas a bit to get a feeling for the right amount of color and to observe how the colors behave to each other, because I used different brands of acrylics. This way I also checked if I liked the color combinations that I chose. And then I just went in and just poured the colors without any technique, as you can see, over the compact until I liked how it looked. I also tried to blow the colors around a bit with a dust blower for cameras. I'm going to show you how the canvases turned out in another video. This would be too long otherwise. Once everything dried completely, I took a scalpel and scraped off the thick parts of the paint that got into the joint of the compact. I wanted the joint to stay intact and look flawless, not this goopy mess there. So it had to go. I just sanded down the plastic part of the joint. I know it looks rough, but trust me, it will be okay. I wiped all the dust off and then I started to color correct everything with the watered down versions of the acrylic paint that I already used for the pouring. I just apply it now more precisely with a tiny brush. So now dry again, I can easily move the joint up and down without any withstand. My next step was to give the pretty logo a new color. Usually the old Polly Pocket logos have a shiny golden color. I wanted mine to be dark purple. That would be a nice contrast to the lavender and the light yellow color, I thought. So I mixed a very dark purple with acrylic paints and applied it as a first layer. I also made some color corrections at those areas that I missed. While it should dry, I started to prime the inside of the compact by just painting everything in a really light pastel yellow. At first I thought I could skip this part, but the color underneath always shines through, so I painted over everything. The next thing I did was to cover every part of the compact with a coarse-grained structural gel. Well, I did this to create a surface on which air dry clay is able to stick to. It also imitates the structure of natural greenery and a tiny beach that I'm going to create there by hiding the stairs. Although it looks more like snow or frosting on a cake without any color for now. After the structure gel has dried completely, I started to paint the beach and the tiny lake that I wanted to be where the carpet of the restaurant has been. I used a technique that acquired a lot of very thinned out layers of acrylic paint. To create a watery effect, I also wiped little by little some of the color away, so the layers of different blues that I applied over each other would shine through as good as possible. But of course, each layer has to dry at first, each time I add a new layer. To make it even more realistic, I added some white color to the edges of the water so it looks like sea foam. The sky at the top was not that time consuming. I just got over and over it until the color appeared opaque and then dabbed some tiny clouds on top. I also applied a layer of green on all the parts that I wanted to be grown by plants. It ended up looking like this. Then I was bored by the inside of the compact, so I switched over to the outside again. I wanted to spice up the color of the logo now. I grabbed the glittery pen that I found once at the flea market and made it sparkly violet. To make sure that it won't come off, I waited until it completely dried and applied 2 layers of varnish over everything. Ah, Fimo. This is a German brand for oven bake and air dry clay. You know, as a child I stopped working with clay because I had exactly this brand of clay to work with. What my issue with it was, well, look at the description. Fimo soft. And now, listen to what soft means in Germany.
Oh, meine arme Hand, aua.
It barely changed its form. I thought as a child, well, if this is soft, what is hard then? I really thought that I was too weak for modeling, so I quit it completely until this project. I wanted to give it another try, so I ordered it again. But yeah, as you could see and hear, it is as hard as I remembered it to be in my childhood. I also ordered air dry clay from the same brand, and this one is way softer and hand friendlier. And because it is air dry clay, I could use it inside the plastic compact without having to put it into the oven where it would melt away. I really didn't want to throw the oven baked clay away, so I assumed that I could use it to build some stone stairs, since it is already hard. But as I cut it, it just crumbled into tiny pieces. I was so close to give it up, but then I started kneading these tiny itty bitty pieces together, and suddenly it got smooth, soft and workable. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I finally understood how you are supposed to use it. Just in teeny itty bitty pieces and not in big chunks as I thought you would do it. So I spontaneously started to form the mystical Pokémon Celebi, and it turned out so cute that I began to really love to work with Fimo now. I decided to make more Pokémon figures while I tried to stay as tiny as possible. I still can't believe that I accidentally found out how to use this clay properly. Although I have watched some YouTubers use this in bigger chunks than I had to do it, but yeah, maybe I'm just too weak still. Well, after baking all the figurines for 30 minutes in the oven, I painted them, of course. They all got a first coat of their signature colors at first. I even made some tiny eggs for a nest that I'm also going to build for this compact. I made it out of these brownish craft material that I got in the Easter section of a store nearby. I cut the tiny straws in even tinier ones and glued them together until it looked like a bird's nest. As the first color coat of the figurines dried, they got their detail colors painted on. I also drew their facial features on with a waterproof and very fine ink pen. Look how tiny! I think that this Love Disc Pokemon is the tiniest I can get without a magnifying glass. So, as you can tell by the figurines, I want this compact to become Pokemon themed. The upper part is inspired by a forest of the Johto region that is called Steineichenwald in German, or in English, Ilex Forest. In the middle of this forest you can find a tiny shrine. The people of the Pokemon world think that the shrine is a symbol of good luck and success and that it drives away evil spirits from the forest. They also believe in the patron saint of the forest, the legendary Pokemon Celebi, who lives inside the shrine. So I wanted to create this shrine. I cut some matches in the right length and superglued them inside to create the stone stairs. For the time it takes the glue to harden, I started to create a tree that should grow on the bottom half. For that, I cut several strings of very thin wire to the same length and twisted them around each other until it looked like a tree without leaves. I wanted it to turn into a cherry blossom tree, so I also twisted some really tiny beads at the ends of the branches, like so. After that, I filled in the crevices of the new created stone stairs to the shrine with some of the structural gel again. Then the time of the air dry clay came. I covered the matches to form the actual stairs and created the shrine itself. To make the clay stick to itself, you can easily wet it a little bit with water. I had to be very careful to not add too much, otherwise it turned into mud. I switched downstairs to create another Pokemon that is a little bit bigger than the other ones. I made a Lapras. It went all nice and fine until I got to the neck and the head. At first I thought, the neck is just a little bit too long. Let's just cut it shorter and stick the head to it. No problem. But it couldn't hold the head. I really should have used some wire to make it more stable. But yeah, I didn't. And additionally to that, everything got so slippery because I used so much water that I lost the head several times while I made it. But I got so used to it that I just continued working while I vent my anger. Well, in the end I could manage to make it stay at its place without using a wire. Instead it rests its head on its back, like a dozing bird. So off camera I created a stone wall at the top and put some trees in the background, and with 2 matches I created a base for 2 more in the foreground, and finally for the upper part I made some more Pokémon that you can typically find in the Ilex forest. A Butterfree and an Oddish. Next, I glued the cherry tree to the bottom part with a glue gun. I made sure that the tree was absolutely stuck there. After that, I formed a tiny cave on top of the stone wall. The matches got covered in clay as well, so they look like tree stems now in the foreground. For the bottom part, I added some roses on one side of the greenery and covered the rest of the table that was originally built in the compact with more air dry clay to make it appear like a cliff near the sea on which the cherry tree is growing. The roots of the tree are also made of clay and have nothing to do with the wire the stem is made of. The next steps were to paint everything. Here we have a nice shot of the really ugly stage of the process. But with each new layer of color, it turned out better and better. Well, I wished it did. Butterfree and Oddish are coming slowly to life, and if you know Pokémon, you even can recognize that the Lapras has become a shiny. Once I have finished the coloring, I just had to glue all the greens and blossoms and other beautiful nature stuff inside. The first greenery that had to go everywhere had to be moss. I covered nearly every spot with it. The door between the Oddish and the Butterfree symbolizes, by the way, the tiny wood house you have to go through to enter the Ilex forest in the games. The next thing that had to be done was, of course, adding the leaves to the trees. But there were not enough, so I added more. More is better than less with trees, I think. Now the cherry tree. I wanted it to look like it was full in blossom. So I covered the branches in glue and dunked them into my transparent holographic glitter potty. I did this to every branch on the tree, twice. The cherry tree looked like this after the first coat of glitter. And like this with the second coat. I also decided that I wanted more leaves to the trees at the top. I also transformed the trees into orange berry trees by gluing some blue beads inside. The last step was to add some other glitter details to the beach and the greenery, and finally I added some tiny gemstones that represent the evolution stones inside the tiny cave. And with this I am finally done. I have put an original Polly Pocket pet, an original Polly Pocket and 2 original Pokémon Pocket figurines right beside my clay figures. I think they kind of blend in nicely in the group. Here you have a side-by-side comparison to how the compact looked like in the beginning and how it looks like now. You still can't close the compact again, but that doesn't bother me personally. You have to see it this way, that it just doesn't want to be closed anymore. I liked this project so much that I think I am going to make another compact in the future. Well, what do you think how it turned out? Let me know it in the comments. As always, I hope you liked what you've seen, and till the next video, bye!